All right, joining us for more on the assassination is Professor Stephen Chan from the School of Oriental and African Studies. Good evening, Professor. Thank you very much for joining us. What a weekend it has been for the United States, more specifically Donald Trump and his supporters. What was your initial reaction when the visuals and reports came through that Donald Trump had been shot at the Pennsylvania rally?
Well, it was a surprise. I was not expecting this. I don't think anyone was expecting an assassination attempt. That's clearly what it was. And I was quite impressed by how people responded at the scene. The Secret Service surrounded Trump, made sure he was safe, and basically got him out of the way of harm. So everyone responded as they should. Question marks, of course, arise over how prepared they were for some kind of eventuality like this. They obviously were not expecting themselves an assassination effort.
Now, many, as you now touch on that, many have spoken of the serious security lapses where many can not understand how the assassin could enter the rally with a rifle. What exactly are your views on just the little information that we have right now around the security or securing that very precinct?
The precinct was divided into two security zones, and where the gunman was operating was meant to be in the jurisdiction of the local police. The Secret Service were closer to the actual podium where Trump was standing and making his speech. And it was probably the division of duties that made for a lapse in making sure that the president was safe. The gunman was in fact seen by people at the rally, and they alerted the local police to what they had seen, and it was they who did not respond in time or alert the special security forces.
I suppose it will become more clearer later this week, because we heard that the Secret Service's Kimberly Cheetle has been summoned to the U.S. House of Representatives, so she must at least give greater clarity as to what exactly happened. But let's talk about the significance of this event in perhaps reframing Trump's election campaign narrative going forward. Could the attempted assassination form a greater part of his campaign going forward, similar to what we've seen with his prosecution, where he made sure on every platform to state that President Joe Biden has been weaponizing the justice system against him?
He's certainly been doing that, but yes, I do think there'll be a reframing of the narrative now. The Republican Party, I think, is already at work trying to come up with a new narrative that Trump is the hero, the champion, indeed almost the martyr of democracy and decency. Here he is as a bona fide candidate, and here he is being shot for the simple reason that he's a bona fide candidate. So he's going to come out saying that he's the champion of democracy, he was almost assassinated for the sake of democracy, and that he is the one who can safeguard democracy, safeguard the unity of the United States, bring people together. I'm expecting quite a radical change in the normal Trump rhetoric. And this is all designed to put Biden in the shadow when it comes to being the champion of the American people.
Would such a reframed narrative be welcomed by broader society in America?
I'm not sure that is going to be welcomed and believed by everybody in American society. It's certainly going to galvanize the Republicans. It's certainly going to galvanize the Trump campaign. And I think that he is on a very, very great deal of momentum right now going forward into the elections. Quite apart from questions about Biden's acuity, I think he's on the verge of becoming a bit of an unstoppable machine.
When you speak of Biden's acuity, because that on its own, I saw an Ipsos poll last week, which had placed them at some sort of a tie, where 47% would have gone to Trump, 46% to Biden. So already that disastrous debate seemed to be working against Joe Biden. So now with such an assassination attempt, surely perhaps the numbers now could go slightly even higher.
Oh, I think they will. Whether or not they will last depends on how the Democrats respond to the new narrative, which I expect to come out of the Republican camp. They've got to do something with Biden to galvanize his campaign, reframe him in some way. Short of having an assassination attempt on him, at this stage it's quite hard to see what they can do, but I'm sure the backroom boys and girls will be hard at work on it as to what they can do. What they've got not to do is to try too hard, because they obviously tried too hard in trying to prep him for that campaign debate against Donald Trump, and that's why he fluffed his lines. You've got to go for the simple, got to go for the straight, got to go for something that is televisual. So trying too hard can be something that backfires in the end.
Now, there's an important event taking place today. We actually will be taking those live visuals in just a bit. There they are. 2 days after the shooting, the Republican convention will officially kick off, or will officially now nominate Trump as its presidential candidate. We understand that the message today will be one of unity. Is this the ideal message at this point in a country where it seems political intolerance has potential to become even more pronounced with each passing day?
It will become more pronounced, but then Trump could always say that from this day on, he was not the one encouraging it. The campaign will, as I said, adopt a unity type of mantra, and he will go out of his way to appear like the victim. I expect that the bandage he'll be wearing over his ear will be very, very much the visual leitmotif of this particular convention. Look at me, I'm the one who suffered for the sake of having a democratic election. So they'll make great play of that. And that kind of televisual impact is something that's very, very hard to counter.
But I must say, the visuals are quite something to watch, because when we look at that image of Donald Trump, his fist in the air, you've got the flag on top of him. Many say that we're probably going to see a situation now where not only will T-shirts be printed with that image, we're going to have cups, all sorts of paraphernalia right now, where that image will become probably the single most iconic image in American history to date.
It will certainly become an iconic image. Whether the most iconic is another question entirely. But yes, I take your point. The T-shirt manufacturers, the cup manufacturers are probably hard at work at this moment in time. And it is an iconic image in its own right. It's dramatic. It tells a huge story. It has the American flag in it. So the whole, as it were, subtext of patriotism, of standing up for America, is very, very much there, of defiance for the sake of America. And that's why, precisely because such a powerful image, I think the campaign is going to be built around that. Trump as the champion of America and of democracy.
But it seems, Professor, some are a bit circumspect in talking about a deeply polarized USA right now, because at this point we don't even know what the motive is for Matthew Crooks.
There's no real, as it were, evidence as to what the motive could be. Now, in fact, we seem to have some small bits of information that he was a Republican supporter in his youth, but at 20 he was still very, very young at the time of the shooting effort. Getting hold of a high-powered gun, just short of military standard, it was really quite something. I hasten to add that's not a sniper's rifle, so he was quite prepared to take out a number of people around Trump. That's why there were wounded people and one other dead person. So he was aiming for Trump and probably aiming dead center and missed. And Trump probably is quite right that he just turned his head at the right moment and he escaped death. And again, that will become part of the narrative. There but for the grace of God go I. And that will be whipped up into a frenzy by evangelical people who will say that God is blessing the Republican candidate.
Incredible. Professor, thank you very much for your time this evening. That's Professor Stephen Chan from the School of Oriental and African Studies. Just to remind you, we will take you to that convention, the Republican convention, where we expect that Donald Trump will officially be nominated as the Republicans' candidate. All right, there are the visuals there, as you see. Many people there just gathered. Soon enough, it will kick off.